Good evening, everyone. My name is Maggie, and on behalf of Vroman's Bookstore, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for a virtual event this evening with Matt Coyle in conversation with Naomi Hirahara discussing Last Redemption. We're so excited and grateful that our bookstore can continue to bring authors and their works to our community during this time. We'll be hosting more virtual events in the near future, and you can learn about them on our website, romansbookstore.com, as well as our social media at Romans Bookstore. Support our bookstore and our authors and purchase a copy of tonight's featured book. Just click on the green purchase button that reads Last Redemption. It's in a little green outline directly below the viewer screen. The link will redirect you to our website where you can continue your checkout process. We're also selling digital audiobooks and ebooks through Libro FM and Kobo for those who are interested. If you'd like to ask a question during the event, please use the Ask a Question box at the bottom of the screen and type it in. Please do not use the sidebar chat to ask a question. So just a teeny tiny bit about both writers. Tonight we have Matt Coyle, who is the best-selling author of the Rick Cahill PI crime series. His novels have won the Anthony Award, the Shamus Award, the Lefty Award, and the San Diego Book Award, among others. And he's been nominated for numerous Anthony McCavity, Shamus, and Lefty Awards. Last Redemption is the 8th in this award-winning series. He is a graduate of UC Santa Barbara, go UC, and lives in San Diego with his yellow lab Angus. Naomi was born and raised in Southern California, and she's the Edgar Award-winning author of the Mas Arai mystery series, which features a Japanese-American gardener, an atomic bomb survivor who also solves crimes. Some of the names in the series are Summer of the Big Bachi, Gasa Gasa Girl, Snakeskin Shamisen, Blood Hina, and Strawberry Yellow. Books in the series have been translated into Japanese, Korean, and French, and she's accomplished a whole lot more, but we don't have time to go through everything. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the camera over to Matt and Naomi. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
I think the first time I had a prolonged conversation with you was at one of the book launches of actually one of our mystery writing colleagues. It might have been Terry Nolan in Orange County.
Well,
but anyway, you told me about your tight-knit writing group as you were developing your first Rick Cahill novel. And I don't know how many aspiring writers will be watching this, but I wanted to ask you, how did it all come together? And are you part of a writing group today?
I am. It took me 10 years to get published, and probably 4 to 5 after submitting, 5 years to write a very bad first draft, and then a lot of drafts afterwards with submissions. I'm in a writers group. It's smaller. First one I was in, a bunch of us took classes at UC San Diego Extension 20 years ago. I took 3 classes from Carolyn Wheat, a accomplished mystery writer, who I took beginning, middle, and novel. And after the last class, a bunch of us started a group. It was like 7 of us, too many, way too many. And we'd go forever, and we didn't know what we were doing, but it was, it was beneficial. And then years later, I got in a group that Carolyn was leading, and we had maybe 4 or 5 people. And I was in a group with Carolyn for probably my first 6 books, 5 or 6 books. And then the last couple of years, I've been in a smaller group with 2 other San Diego writers. And I find writers groups very beneficial, even now after, writing for so long, because especially in the mystery biz, you're laying clues and things like that. And you're trying to convey you're trying to give the reader just enough and not too much. And it helps to have other people, outside tell you if you're getting it right or not.
Yeah. So can you share, is there one piece of feedback that you got from one of your fellow writers that kind of helped turn your book around? Or
I think the first time someone called me a genius was kind of the big start I got. No, actually, it goes way back. It goes way back to Alan Russell, a San Diego writer, at my very first writers conference. This is probably some of the best advice I ever got. A lot of good advice along the way, but he had the misfortune of he was an established writer, and I was a Southern California Writers Conference. They have in LA and San Diego every year. And he had the misfortune of being one of the readers where you submit pages. And he had, back then it was 30 pages.
Wow.
30 pages. Yeah. And he said, you can write, which was good to hear because this was a very early draft. But he said, it's too autobiographical. And that really was the best advice I got as a young writer. I was writing in first person. My life had been pretty uneventful up until that time. I was a lot younger than I am now. So I hadn't gone through some of the life, crisis you go through as you get older with loss and family and things like that. And the more with each revision, I went further and further away from myself and the Rick Cahill character, and it made the books better and better. And so I'd really have to say some of the very earliest advice I got was some of the best. But I mean, along the way, just having writers there critiquing, and I think beyond just getting feedback, it's also being forced to critique, I think, honed your skills as well. You're kind of picking out the flow of the story, and you can certainly benefit on your own work just by doing that. Hello, Grace.
Your PI novels are a joy to read. The minute I opened this book, I was in. And it's kind of funny because they are dark and they're violent at times. But I think what it is you have such a command over your subgenre. So why are you so drawn to the PI novel? And have you ever experimented with police procedurals? I was just curious.
No, I haven't experimented with police procedural. I've been reading the genre. I don't know how old am I? I'm very old. I got a birthday coming tomorrow. Probably for over 50 years. And hard-boiled PI started with Chandler, Ross McDonald, Dashiell Hammett, and it struck a nerve. I mean, before that, I started with Christie and Conan Doyle, and I like the idea of when you're young, the puzzle pieces, the black and white, good and bad. And when I first read Chandler, I saw some gray, and like the bad guys sometimes got away with it, and that really intrigued me. And I was a teenager at the time, so you're kind of rebellious anyway. So that really set me on the path I'm on now. For police procedural, I just feel like I would mess it up too much, and then I'd have all my former cop friends give me a hard time. But I do, you do have to know somewhat of police procedures when you're writing private detective work. And I get a lot of help from David Putnam, former San Bernardino sheriff's deputy and a writer, good writer. But I just love I kind of like the idea of the, you're outside. You don't have the authority of the badge. You have to make do. And sometimes you break the law, or Rick does, clearly. So you don't have the power of the state behind you. You're on your own many times, and you have to find ways to get to the truth. And you don't always get the resolution that your client wants or that you want. But I like the outsider aspect of it. I always think of mystery writing as sort of a PI, rather, as sort of like the lone gunman who comes into a town in a Western, like Shane or Clint Eastwood or something. He's got some backing, but then there's division, and he's pretty much on his own, and that's always appealed to me.
Was he always Rick Cahill? Was that his name from the start?
No, actually, no. He had a name that rhymed with a politician at the time. When I first started writing him, that would have been, for at least his last name was the same. So, and it was a literary thing, but I won't get into it. My idea of literary, spelled differently, but I just thought that's too, in today's world, too divisive to have that. But I'm very happy I came up with the Cahill. I wanted him to be Irish, of Irish descent, surprisingly. And I like the hard C. And I also wanted RC as a homage to Raymond Chandler. But I like Cahill, the hard C, and Rick, the hard C. Yeah. So I did some looking around and online and for Irish last names, and came up with that. And once I did, I thought this is it. And it's been Cahill for almost, probably for any draft, but that anybody has read, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's easy for me to remember your characters' names, and that's not the case for other people. And I think it is the sound. I
Yeah.
think it is the Rick, and then the next is supposed to be that repetition.
Think about
of
those
that.
hard C's.
Yeah. So very good. So another thing I
Hi,
really
Barbara.
another
Sorry.
thing I really enjoy about your books is its sense of place. And I've spent a lot of time in San Diego myself. I have a lot of close friends who live there, and my husband, as you know, is a sports nut. So
So are
we
you.
spent. Yeah, I am, but he's the true. I actually participate, and he's a great spectator. Yeah, I'm the one who played basketball in high school. So we spent time at University of San Diego and San Diego State, and I think there is something unique about San Diego, and I think maybe it's history of being a naval town, maybe
Yeah.
proximity to the beach in Mexico, and now the growing like tech industry. So what makes
Right.
San Diego such a good place for a PI novel?
I kind of feel like it's underserved in the genre. There are a lot of great mystery writers that live in San Diego or San Diego County. G. Jefferson Parker lives in Fallbrook. Don Winslow lives in Ramona. I think he's got a couple houses down here. And other, local friends of mine, Coyle and Feynman, Lisa Brackman, among others. But not everybody writes about San Diego. And I just feel like there is a sense of place here. It's got a little bit of a chip on its shoulder, like as LA's little brother always has. When you grow up in San Diego, you just have this animus to LA, which I have overcome after spending so much time in LA for events and just loving the topography of LA. It's amazing topography. People don't really understand unless you drive around, which of course is no fun to drive in LA or San Diego now. But I just felt like, I always think when I'm writing, I got to write about La Jolla too, which is an idyllic spot known throughout the world. Many people, wealthy people, have second homes here. It's kind of thought of as a vacation spot. But I always think of Blue Velvet because it is paradise. It's idyllic, but underneath that grass, there's the teeming beetles. And, every paradisical place has a dark side. And I like to write about the dark side and contrast it against the, there's people come to the West Coast, I think, still do, to try to get catch the American dream, achieve the American dream. And it's so visible, it's just within arm's reach. And yet they can be so far from it. And I think that builds tension and, a real desire and wanting and yearning, and not necessarily always in a good way. So, and it's beautiful down here. Yeah.
It is beautiful. So The Last Redemption, it's both, and if you want to order this, just hit that green button.
The green button.
Last Redemption here. It's both hopeful and it's wretched at the same time. So can you provide us the storyline of this 8th Rick Cahill book, and also read a few paragraphs from it too?
Okay. It's Rick is actually, he's a private investigator. He's many years ago was thought when he was a cop in Santa Barbara, arrested for his wife's murder, never tried, released, but never exonerated. And for many years thought to be a guy that got away with murder. So he's had a black cloud that's followed him. He's gone back to his hometown many years ago, San Diego, and he's become a private investigator. He's made the mistake. He often makes the mistake of getting emotionally involved in cases he takes. And it's not just the client's goal on the line. It's Rick's own need to find the truth. And so that can get him in trouble. Sometimes it has bad outcomes for everyone. But he's in probably the best place he's ever been in his life. In one way, as the book opens, his girlfriend, Leah, is pregnant. And Rick's, I think, 42. Leah's 41. He was married before Yesterday's Echo, the first book, and his wife died before that. So now, all these years later, he's going to have the child he's never thought possible. He thought he's never going to have a chance to be a father. It's the same case for Leah, who was married, now divorced, but she'd had a couple of miscarriages and thought she'd never have a child. And here's this miracle baby right in front of them. She's pregnant. Things are going well. They're past the 12 weeks of when the most of the miscarriages occur. And so that's good for Rick for about a week. And then he finds out that he's diagnosed with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is called CTE. Sports fans, like your husband, knows it as a pro football disease, and it's a brain injury disease, and the prognosis generally is loss of cognition, dementia, early death. And so he hasn't told Leah because they're living the joy of finding out she's pregnant, and now he's got this bad news. Now, it makes sense that Rick would have this disease. I just didn't throw it in there just to have something traumatic. Is when I started writing Rick many years ago, 20 years ago, I didn't know anything about writing. I just know about reading. But there were two rules I had. One was that he had to be a complete lone wolf, no Superman sidekick who could physically extricate him from bad situations, no really wealthy sidekick who could get him out of legal jams with money, and no comedic sidekick who could lighten the mood. And then I bumped up against Moira McFarlane, who changed all that for me and for the better. But the other rule was that everything, all physical and emotional trauma mattered. And throughout the series, my continuing readers have seen the emotional scars. They're very evident in Rick because you're reading in first person. And I thought, well, this is a guy who's lived a violent life. Early in life, that violence was funneled towards sports, but he boxed. He boxed Golden Gloves for 3 years when he was a kid. He played football from probably from 10 to 20 when he was in Pop Warner High School and a couple of years of college football. He's had numerous concussions as a private investigator. If I'm going to be true to that one rule I had, then it kind of makes sense that he has this horrible disease. My publisher, I don't think, was real happy about it, but at times I questioned it. But I didn't see any way. If I was going to stick to that rule, and I was trying to make unreal situations as real as possible, he'd have this disease, and so he's he's hiding it. Excuse me, from his girlfriend. He's hiding it from everyone. But he has changed. I will get to the portion I'm going to read in just a second. Because of his committed relationship with Leah now, and the fact he's going to be a father, he's actually going to be a father. He has scaled back his private investigative work, so he doesn't take cases where there's much potential to get this emotional connection, to get physically damaged. He basically he does background checks for successful corporations, and it's turned out it's been kind of a financial windfall for him. He's making more money than he used to, but he misses doing what he thought he should be doing, which is helping people that need help. He's in an office all day. He's on the keyboard. He's on the phone, and there's something missing. But he realizes, if I'm going to be a father, if I'm going to be a husband, these are the sacrifices, if you want to call them that I have to make. And so that's where he is as the book opens. I mentioned Moira, his sometimes partner. She's a private eye. They're individual private eyes, but they get together. She's his best friend. He doesn't have many friends, but she's his best friend. And she has asked him to surveil her son. Moira is a widow. She has a single son, and he has been hit with a temporary restraining order from his girlfriend. And Moira is afraid he is stalking her. And so she's asked Rick to surveil him for a few nights to see what's going on. So what I'm going to read, Rick has gone, he's met with Moira, he's gotten this information, he's come home, and Leah is upstairs, and it's late. He expects her to be in bed because she has to get up early to drive to Santa Barbara the next morning. And she's upstairs in the room they're converting into a nursery. And so he basically asks, what are you doing in here? And I'll read just a few, 2 minutes maybe. So he's asked her what she's doing. I can't sleep when you're not here. She took my right hand in both of hers. I worry about you. This room calms me just thinking about our future with our baby. I've given Leah plenty of reasons to worry. In the first year and a half we've been together, I've been shot in the face, stabbed in the throat, and nearly disemboweled. But that was in the past. Almost all my detecting over the last year was done in my upstairs office, tapping on a keyboard or talking on the phone. The work was steady and paid pretty well, but better than the process serving infidelity and workers' comp fraud cases that made it the bulk of my former income. But every once in a while in that old life, I'd take a case that was about more than money or cheating or fraud, a case that mattered, down deep, for the person who hired me and for my own soul. Some cases left scars on the people who hired me and the people I investigated, and on me, but the work had meaning. Becoming a private detective had been a reawakening for me. It had given me a purpose, a quest, to help people who had nowhere else to go to find the truth, their truth, my quest, my redemption. Even with my worsening secret condition, I felt more alive on the drive back from Moira's house than I had in a year. And it was a selfish feeling. My life had changed. I had other responsibilities than just myself and a home for my dog. I had a soon-to-be family to consider, to be responsible for, and I couldn't abandon them. Let's see. I'm just helping a friend. She'll only take a few days, and I won't miss any of my corporate work. I said, I'm not worried about your corporate work. I'm worried about you. I need you, Rick. I don't want you to get hurt. We have a baby to think about. She traced the jagged scar along my neck with her hand. I know what can happen when you go all in to help a friend. It'll only be a few nights of surveillance, and that's it. I pray you're right. Leela turned off the light and led me out of the nursery. She stopped at our bedroom door. But when you get involved with a case like this, there's always something else after the it. But that's it.
If anyone has any questions, please put it under ask a question. So the kid, was that always your intention to introduce a child in his life? How did that all come about?
Not at all. Not at all. Like I said, one of the rules I had, Rick Lone Wolf, everything, he's responsible for everything. He can't get any help from anyone. Lone wolf in work, lone wolf in life. He's got this sad past, this dark past where he feels somewhat responsible for the death of his wife, which I won't go into, but it's kind of driven him for this need for redemption throughout his adult life. And never thought about it. I've never even thought about him really having a serious girlfriend. And then in 2 books before this, Lost Tomorrows, he went up to Santa Barbara where he'd been a police officer because his former training officer had been killed in a car accident. And her sister Leah asked Rick to investigate because she didn't think the police had everything right. And I only needed Leah for basically that scene and some others, but then there was a connection between the two. Mm-hmm. So that evolved and then they became a couple. And so that, and then Blind Vigil, she was an important part of Blind Vigil. And I thought, well, here's the progression of for normal people. And even though Rick's not very normal, you get in a relationship and things progress and you start a life together. And the idea of a child really raised the stakes for Rick in his later life. That was part of it. But it was also part of the, maybe give the guy a little bit of a break. His life hasn't been real happy. But it seemed like a logical place to go. But no, when I first started writing, no clue, never thought of it. No. Lone Wolf, that's it. And I think that the irony of bringing in Moira, or maybe not irony, but the benefit really is that I think that it extended the series and it made Rick more likable to have someone, because Moira's got her stuff together. I think readers like her. She's very together, except in this book, she's not because there's her son involved. But if she cares about Rick, this guy who doesn't have many friends, but she's invested in him, then it gives the reader a reason to overlook some of the bad decisions he makes or try to better understand them. And I think she lengthened the series completely and made the series better and made it a little lighter. It's dark, like you said, clearly, but there are some light moods and it's kind of the banter. Some of it's the banter between Moira and Rick. They're kind of she's sort of like a big sister. He's a little brother, familial aspect to it. And it was I just lucked into that and it definitely made the series better.
Now there's definitely like a parent-child thing going on, right, in your book?
Yeah.
I mean, was that intentional? So what came first, that he was going to have a child, or Moira was struggling with, she's looking for her MIA son?
The Rick was going to have a child. The way I write in this very organic way, as we call it, is I start with the Rick subplot. That's what's going on in his life that he's really having a hard time with, dealing with. And then, in the back of my mind, I have an idea of what the story should be, but it's really the subplot is the major thing. And is there a case that can overlap with what's going on in his life? Maybe not all the time, but it's going to make his life harder, whatever he does. And this did. I thought, well, what would get Rick out of the office to break this this kind of oath he's made, maybe not verbally, but committed to the relationship in Leah, that I'm an office guy now. I'm an office cat.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be his only, or one of his few friends who had, she's in dire straits. It's her son. It's her only son. So family, yeah, became very important. And the way she reacts to having the only person left in her life, he's undergoing stress. That made the whole family thing come about. And then Rick sees, because Rick hasn't really had a family since he was maybe 10. His father became an alcoholic after something that happened on the police force. His mother disowned the father. And when she did that, she basically distanced herself from Rick. So he really hasn't had that family feeling except for a few brief moments when he was married. And that didn't turn out well. So he's kind of, this is how it works. He's learning as he goes. He sees the importance. And plus, it's a bit of a role reversal for him and Moira, because she's always been the one that's been the brake. He's been the gas. And here she is, emotional like she's never been. It's her son. These things matter. So he tries to be the, I don't know, the one together, but it doesn't work out great for him. He's not practiced at it.
Barbara DeMarco Barrett has a kind of a related question. How much did you know about Rick before you began the series, or did his story unfold as you went from book to book? I mean, you kind of talked about the transition of these past few books, but how about from the get-go, from the very beginning?
Well, being an extremely organized writer and having my shit together all the way, I had it all mapped out. Not at all. I didn't even really know what was Rick's dark background until as I was writing the first book, and I mentioned Alan Russell and him talking about making it less autobiographical. And after he said that, later in a revision, something I mentioned this before, but a sentence came to me that became the first sentence of the first book, Yesterday's Echo, which is the first time I saw her, she made me remember and she made me forget. And I realized there was real pain in this guy's life, more than I was thought about, more than I was writing. And from there, I figured out his backstory. But in terms of having it all figured out, in book 5, Lost Tomorrows, I mentioned my friend David Putnam. He told me, like, after book 2, he says, you have to resolve this Rick's wife situation. I said, yeah, I get to it. First I had to do his father's thing. And that was an emotional book to write for many reasons. One, because I'd lost my father right before I started writing it. And I planned to write it anyway. So that made it emotional. It was emotional for Rick. So I took that was 4. I didn't 5. I didn't want to make it that emotional a book, but it was the only thing I could come up with. And I lost my place a little bit. What was I talking about?
You're talking about just the development.
Oh yeah. So all the time I've had, I mean, I knew how he felt responsible for his wife's death in some ways, for not being there when she needed him, but I didn't know how she died. This is book 5 and I don't even know how she died. So I had to figure that out in book 5. And when I started the book, I didn't know how she died. So I don't have a clue to what I'm doing, but ironically, I mean, it does evolve, as Barbara asked, it does evolve with each book. But the more I write, the more I learn about Rick's backstory. And I think there's so much to my subconscious, at least. I mentioned Carolyn Wheat. She always said that my subconscious is a better writer than I am, which I agree with. The title of my first book, Yesterday's Echo, is basically the overarching arc for Rick's life. Yesterday's Echo. All these things in the past matter in the future and the present. And that's been true. That the situation with his wife has led him to the life he needs to live, and all these other situations. So and it's sort of when I'm writing a book too, in the first draft, I'm very open to anything. I don't outline. So my first draft is kind of like an outline. So anything that comes to mind, I throw in there. I call it dropping an anchor. Barbara loves Carolyn Wheat. I do too. I would not be where I am without Carolyn Wheat. So I drop an anchor. Sometimes I'll put something in that I don't even know what it means, but it came to me. So I drop it in a scene, and then later the true meaning will come to me. And generally it gives me greater idea of what I'm trying to do, but sometimes it doesn't make any sense at all. And I pull it up. I call it pulling up anchors, but I'm very organic. And I don't know if this specifically answers Barbara's question, but I'm going to ramble on anyway. For some reason, the last 3 books I just turned in 9. So I've written 6 books and had, some level of success doing it with this kind of very murky way of going about it. I thought I had to be more organized. I don't know why. And the last 3 books I've started, I'm going to try to be more organized. Going to try to have a better idea of theme and all this, and it just stalls me. It blocks me. And then I know Rick's subplot. I see the ending out there. I'm not exactly sure how to get there. I'm going to put Rick in a scene, and I'm going to write it, and then the rest is going to come. And that's what generally happens.
Well, I think that's good advice about the subplot. I think that's super interesting. That is a way to get into the story. So let's see. Oh yeah, Barbara says it's a good answer.
Thanks, Barbara.
So you've already finished the next book.
Yeah, I'm just finishing revisions right now, as a matter of fact.
Oh, this is going to be really interesting. I'm so fascinated because this is called The Last Redemption. So I'm wondering what's going to come. One thing, and this you could have mentioned this already regarding his cognitive issues, but you're really not afraid to put Rick Cahill through the meat grinder. So do you have some sadistic tendencies? And what's the most physical pain you've gone through?
Well, to those who have read Last Redemption, the most physical pain I've been through may ring a bell for them. I cut off the end of my middle finger on my right hand with a lawnmower when I was 19. Yes, that hurt. There's a lot of nerve endings there. It's quite painful. I was was 19, so it was back in the late 70s, I guess. And I was wearing Larry Bird shorts that you wore at the time, where they're very short. And I wasn't wearing a shirt because I was mowing my mom's lawn after, it was summer after my first year of college, or first year maybe, yeah. So I immediately do this, and she heard me yelp, and so she has to drive me down to the hospital. I'm in my Larry Bird shorts and nothing else. And I clamped my hand so hard I stopped the blood immediately. And she was freaking out, and I'm trying to calm her down. And so luckily, apparently there was a hand surgeon in the hospital at the time. So the fact that I had a little nail was supposed to be a good thing. I don't know whether it is or not. But I remember that they stuck me in a room. They stuck me in a room in a wheelchair and left me there and shut the door. And so I started to get, and this is research too, for pain in the finger, and also for when you get when you're in shock, how the room starts closing in on you. And I've used that in a couple of books because Rick gets in shock a lot. And so I was in shock, and I felt like I was going to throw up. This is a great story that you didn't expect to hear tonight. I thought I was going to throw up. And so I got up to go puke in their sink. And the nurse came in. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to throw up." And she came over. She snapped smelling salts under my nose and went away like that. So later in life, I wish that when I used to be a drunk, I always wished I had smelling salts, but I never had them handy. But so, yeah, that's the most pain. Am I a sadist? Probably a little bit. Rick has endured a lot of pain. There was in this book, actually, there's a scene where Rick has to take off his shirt in front of a woman. There's nothing romantic about it, but she's kind of shocked because there's all these scars on him. And I had to remember, I don't keep a Bible, which I'm very stupid, of all the things that have happened to Rick and all the people. So I had to go back and think, let me see, where are those scars? He's got the one here. He's got the one down here. He's got one here. Where are they? Yeah, he's had a lot of things happen to him that, if you look at it from 30,000 feet, it's not realistic, but I try to go book to book and make it as real as possible. And the other thing is that I think, and I've said this before, I think of Jack Nicholson in Chinatown when Rick gets injured. Jack got his Mr. Giddis. He got his nose slit open by Roman Polanski. And the whole rest of the movie, your leading man's got this honking bandage on his nose, or when he takes it off, you see these horrible stitches. So I always thought about, that's what I think about when there's an injury. I think, well, it doesn't go away the next chapter. If his knee is messed up or his ribs are bruised, they're going to hurt. Especially these books are maybe 1 to 2 weeks long. Bruised ribs are going to hurt a long time. So, you may have written that scene where his ribs were bruised 3 months ago when you're writing something near the end. and you realize, oh yeah, I have to acknowledge that he's in pain with his ribs too. So
Barbara
another
has
just rambling answer.
no. It's good. Sorry, I hear an echo.
I hate that.
So Barbara asked, "Do you think A story, B story?" I think you kind of answered that, but I'll
Well,
just put it out there.
I don't really think that way. I think more subplot and major through line. But for 2 books, I did think a story, A1 story, or whatever you want to call it, with Blood Truth, which is the 4th book, and I introduced something there that had to be wrapped up in Wrong Light, the 5th book, and that's always dangerous to have 2 A plots. Because I think of, I don't know, Naomi, I have a feeling you might watch some food shows, some food competitions, maybe not. But anytime that the judges have here's what you need to do, and somebody always gets very ambitious and they do it 2 ways, whatever, beef 2 ways or whatever it is, and they're always giving the judge another reason, not a one more reason not to like it, and that's always very dangerous to do. I did it for 2 books. I did it for 2 books in a row, which is kind of insane. Because it just felt right. Because in Blood Truth, I really wanted to elevate, and it's kind of the same in this book in terms of elevation, but I really wanted to elevate Rick's subplot into the major, sort of became a through line. This doesn't really, it more intertwines, but always dangerous to do. And I'm not going to do it again for a while, I don't think. But I think A plot, major subplots.
Grace asks, any plans on having Rick work on a case outside of San Diego, La Jolla?
Good question. I had him in Santa Barbara. That was about as far as I could go. He does go to, in the book, if he survives, in the book that's coming next, there are a couple scenes in Monterey. I like to be able, I went to school in Santa Barbara a long time ago. And I've been there a few times over the years. And I wanted for Lost Tomorrows, Rick had to go back to Santa Barbara. And things have changed quite a bit since I went to school there. They've changed since I vacationed there or what have you over the years. So I went up and spent a couple long weekends up there. But I just like the idea of being in the place that I'm writing about. Because right now, if I wanted to go out and look at something, I just get in my car and I could drive anywhere I want in San Diego and get the vibe of the area, even though I live here. And I think for me, that's important to get the vibe. So I don't like writing outside of places I can't touch. And often when I'm trying to find out where someone lives in one of my books, I drive around, look at open houses and go inside their houses. That's how I found Rick's house. That's how I found, it wasn't an open house for Peter Stone's house, but it's a well-known house in La Jolla. And I have a real estate connection, and she showed me some inside pictures of the place. Unfortunately, after I'd always thought up my own, and they were much more the real thing, much more luxurious than I thought up. But there was another character. I went inside a house, and probably about 3 different houses I've actually used. And I really like to be able to be where I'm writing. So I have an idea for the next book, and I think it'll be just going to be in Rick's living room. They're not going to go anywhere, but just his living room, because I know it very well. So no outside. Going to get takeout food. Never leave the living room. But midnight will be there. So.
And it's not a pandemic book.
God no. God no.
You did mention the pandemic once, though.
I know. Just a mention, though.
Yeah. No, I think it was very well done. Yeah, I wanted, in terms of being a wordsmith, there's a couple of words, and I can't find them right now, that you threw in there. I'm going, what the heck is that word? I mean, I was going, dang, that's like an intellect here. And I can't. So
probably not a real word. Sometimes I make up verbs. Sometimes I take a noun and I make it into a verb.
Okay, and I wanted to ask you, is this an Easter egg? Because there was this one section. I know that one of our colleagues is named Jeff Shelby. Do you know him?
I know the name sounds familiar. No Jeff Shelby Easter egg, but there are some Easter eggs in here for sure.
Yeah.
But it might be people that you don't know. Like one is, well, generally, as you know and do, I'm sure, with at conferences, there's always the blind, what do they call it? A blind auction, where people will
silent auction.
Yeah, silent auction, and so people will put their name down and give money to charity to have their name in the book. And those always happen. I always feel so bad though, because the book's like a year later when it comes out, and people, in the meantime, your latest book will come out and they're probably looking like, where's my name? Well, it's coming out in the next one. So we haven't had conferences for a while. So I've just gone online, and on Facebook, I put up a thing that, hey, I'm going to do if you want your name in the book, I'll match your up to $50. I'll match your donation to St. Jude's. And generally people just, even when they throw their name in, they give donations. So we raise, a few $100 for St. Jude's. And then I just pick out of a hat. And I think there was a woman who I met at Left Coast Crime, San Diego, the one-day conference at speed dating. And she said, I can't remember what conference it was. She goes, I won to have my name in your book. And I said, they didn't even tell me that, I didn't get a final. So she ended up being in this book, Linda Holland.
Okay.
So that was like years later. And I don't even have a way to get a hold of her. I'm hoping that she learns about it, because I don't have her email address or anything. I met her that day and I said, I'm going to put your name in the next book.
Oh.
And she's in there, but I hope she gets a chance to know about it. But
yeah, I bet if you tell the Left Coast Crime folks, they could track her down. Yeah,
I should. You're right.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious about this Naomi Hendricks too.
Right.
Who the heck is that?
She was, Naomi Hendricks. I like the name Naomi. It's a great name.
Yeah, it's a nice name.
Yeah.
Let's see. And have you had any? Because I think Rick Cahill would make a great TV, streaming show. Have you had any bites or inquiries on that end?
Well, I haven't had any options. I've had some inquiries, but I do have a Hollywood agent who the thing I'm lucky about is they really like my work. I really get the vibe that they really like my work and are really trying hard. Just haven't had any success. But I remember the first time I got a sniff, and my agent was out of town. Kimberly Cameron was out of the country. She was in France. So she emailed me. She said, Mary Alice needs the PDFs of all your books. I think I had 4 out at the time, because there's somebody who has a network contract. They're interested. And I said, okay, I'll get them to her. And so I sent them off to her. And then, like every week after that, I said, well, when do I get, cast approval? When do I sit down and talk to everybody? But she never responded. But no, I haven't had. And you're right, with in network. All things being equal, if I had a choice, I'd want to be on streaming, and because I think there's so many, you can do what you want. You can really make better art, I think. But I think there's a venue, because I think there's so many avenues now. I think there's a avenue for this beat up middle-aged guy who's trying to figure out his life and do the right thing, and doesn't always do it correctly. And so I'm hopeful, and I will have 10 books in the series at the end of next year, and I think 10 is a good number.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what might sell it too is the location.
I think so too, but I don't. Very, very little is filmed in San Diego. It's been a while.
Just the beach just being close to the coast. That's where everyone wants to be. So,
I've already got the opening credits. The film for the opening credits in my mind. I know exactly where Rick's going to go. There's going to be a drone filming him as he goes down like Soledad Mountain and along the beach, and it'll be very dark, and there'll be beach during the day. But I got it all figured out, but nobody's knocked on my door yet.
So San Diego,
and they won't want it, and they will not want my opinion if they do.
Well, some cities, they give like credits for trying to draw people to make movies and TV shows, and
right.
I'm just curious if San Diego has something like that. That would be good. So, any more questions for for
I have a question for you.
Oh, oh, great. Before you ask that, Grace says, need a new San Diego detective show. I remember watching Simon and Simon. Simon was set in San Diego. I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
they used to show in their opening credits the UCSD Giesel Library.
Oh, okay.
I can't, Simon and Simon, I can't believe someone brought that up because I happen to know somebody who is watching right now who has ideas about Simon and Simon. I wonder if she'll make a comment. But here's the question I had for you. Is
Yes.
because you had the Master Eye series for what, 8 books?
Only seven.
7 books.
Yeah.
How did it feel? And that was very close to you, very close to you. It meant something. It meant a lot to you.
Yes,
How did you feel when you stopped writing Mass?
I felt certainly there was some sadness, but I kind of felt liberated. And my character was so old. I mean, you're calling Cahill middle aged and 40 something. My character started out 69, ended at 86.
That's right.
So I think some of it, I mean, as you said, just the reality, there's just some, when you're 86 years old, there's only so much you can do. I mean, realistically. Right. So I think I wanted a proper ending, and I wanted to be in control of that ending, because a lot of series, and you've been lucky that, Ocean View has been supportive and you can have it all, under the same publishing house, because I think some series, they kind of peter out, because of maybe the publishing house loses interest or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want everybody listening and watching to think about what Naomi did. She introduced a 69-year-old landscaper as her lead, and I don't know how many years ago it was, and wrote him till he was 86. But she introduced a 69-year-old landscaper, and she won the Edgar for it, the first book. And just think about
it was the third book.
Third book?
Yeah.
Well, then you were underachiever. But just think about how difficult that must have been to get somebody interested in that. I mean, it's a great series, beloved series, but to get that through the door in the beginning, not easy to do, and to want to tell that story and tell it well is a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah.
I want to say that Juliet said, this is Juliet, I don't know who she is, but I think she's a stalker. I would 1,000% watch a Simon and Simon reboot, maybe with female detectives this time. Well, you just keep thinking about that,
Juliet. we want Rick Cahill. That's what we want. Oh, and the Coronado Bridge was in the opening credits.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's too many reboots.
Oh, so yeah.
Right.
So,
I think we need some new stuff.
I agree. God, so many reboots.
Yeah. Yeah. We need the
generally a mistake too.
We need the Masa Rice series, and we need the Rick Cahill series. I think that's what we need.
You could intertwine too.
That's what America needs right now.
I agree.
Well, we're getting towards the end. This is your last chance, people, to ask a question. Okay, so what's going on in terms of the promotion for you for this book? Where are you going to next?
Good question. I did a live event at Warwick's in La Jolla in San Diego on November 30th. It was one of their, maybe their second or third in-store. I actually did the first in-store with them in 18 months when I hosted, much like you're doing tonight, Matt Whitten, LA author. And that was a couple months ago. And that was so much fun. And then to be able to do it, for my own book, the way San Diego always embraces me, but that night was special. It was very special because I had a special person in the audience too. Just amazing. And then I was able to I did Poison Pen on Zoom, and always fun. Barbara actually sat in and asked me questions, which was great. And then I did Book Carnival in Orange. Everybody knows Anne. That was a lot of fun. Love her crowd. And then I just went up to San Francisco and did Book Passage, where I had 2 friends show up and the woman who introduced me. So the 3 of us talking, but ironically, the people who didn't show bought a bunch of books, so it turned out okay. But I got another event tomorrow night with Murder by the Book, Zoom, and I'm hopeful that with new mask mandates coming down again tomorrow. I'm hopeful to be able to do my in-store event at Mysterious Galaxy in January, and I've got the Orange County. I'm going to mess up their title anyway. Book club, not really a book club. It's started by Jack London, but I've got that in the first week of January, a live event, and so I'm hopeful that that'll actually happen. But it's been a mixed bag, as you know. Zoom events are fun. They're not the greatest for the bookstore. The bookstores, it's great exposure, but they don't sell as many books. It's just been a whole different thing for everybody trying to figure out how to go. And I'm really happy to be able to do live events, but I'm happy to be able to do this and for Naomi to give her time when everybody's really busy and with everything. So I really appreciate that. We do have a couple questions though.
Grace thinks that Masarai and Rick Cahill should meet on the case, but that means Rick has to travel to LA.
Right.
Well, Moss could go down to San Diego. Okay.
You can spend a long weekend in LA.
Ron asks, what do you think of the notion that the surfeit of reboots suggests that there's an audience for a certain type of narrative, both of yours, and the companies are at a loss?
I don't know. I don't really. I mean, I think TV is definitely where it is to try to where the best art's being done, and has been for years. You get the worst stuff on TV, but you get the best stuff as well. And it's all on cable or streaming. But I think they must feel there's a I don't know. They just don't have the courage to do something different, except all these reboots. But I think one thing that happened that I'm hearing is that with COVID, it stopped all this production for so long. So all this stuff that's in that funnel has to be produced. So it may be next year for Naomi and me to get our stuff out there, but who knows?
Well, to tell you the truth, probably for like a character-driven series, it may be like they have to figure out who the actor's going to be.
Good point.
I mean, the actor might have to carry. And then for you, a 40-something-year-old white guy, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of options. For a Masarai, it's a little more limited. But I have some things in mind. But I think so much rides on that character. So it has to be a really, really strong character. And Patty, do you know Patty Calistro, Matt? I don't know if you.
I don't know if I do.
She is the publisher of Angel City Press, which is set in Santa Monica. They do more history books. I did my Terminal Island book under them, and
very cool.
Yeah. So
thanks for stopping by, Patty, and the note.
And then how about Santa Monica? You've never thought of using that coastal community?
Santa Monica is beautiful. I miss going to the Barnes and Noble up there. That's not there anymore. No, I did an event for bedside reading at what's the hotel? Beautiful hotel in Santa Monica where I could see the ocean from my room. I feel embarrassed that
Miramar.
Miramar, that was it, right?
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, and I got to go to bed with blanket on her name. What Bedside Reading does at the end of the gig, they put everybody in a bed and they take a picture. And
okay.
Completely blanking out.
Yeah, I think it's close to 7, so close to your bedtime, right? Right,
pretty much.
Matt. Oh, okay. Georgia, all these questions all of a sudden. Okay, Matt, has your agent been submitting your books to actors, production companies?
Yes.
Especially those with Amazon deals.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rejection.
I'm
part of the deal.
I'm trying to think of what actor would be good for. Yeah.
I always had thought that Mark Wahlberg would be good. Mark Wahlberg would be good. I always like the sense of the darkness just behind the facade, that when he does the serious stuff. But I don't know. He's. I actually sent him I sent a book. My first 2 books to his production company before my Hollywood agents really knew what I was doing. I got no response. But he's old now and he's short. So.
Well, he's really buff though. Maybe too buff. Yeah. Well, there's
I like Chris Pratt too, but he's busy right now with Jack Carr. So Jack lets him go. Maybe we can get Chris Pratt.
You really are going for the beefy guys. I don't view.
You don't
Does
think
he have to?
Rick is well, you know, I mean, Rick is he's about 6 feet, about 200, in fairly good shape. So
Okay, all right. Okay, any last words? And maybe we need to bring our host, Mikal. Is it Mikal or yes?
Hi.
Hi.
My
How do I
name.
pronounce your name? I'm sorry.
Okay, my name's Michal, but I go
Mikal.
in
Oh,
America. I go by Maggie. So,
okay, Maggie.
Maggie.
Okay.
right, that confused me on the emails.
Sorry.
But
You know.
I like McCall. Beautiful
Thank
name.
you. It's a very, very old Hebrew name that my parents gave me.
Watch out, he might steal your name.
Absolutely.
I mean, I stole it technically, but my parents did. So, you know, I guess you can call it Bible fan fiction. So that's a wrap on our presentation. Thank you again to our guests and to everyone who tuned in this evening. We greatly appreciate everyone's time and your support of independent bookstores. Please support Vroman's, our bookstore, and our authors and purchase a copy of tonight's featured book. Just click on the green purchase button that reads Last Redemption directly below the viewer screen. If you'd like regular updates on our upcoming events, make sure to follow us on Crowdcast and subscribe to our newsletter. Have a great evening, and as always, more importantly than ever, everyone stay safe. Thank you.
Bye
Thanks for everybody
bye.
listening in. Thanks for having me.